Greetings! It is I, your archivist, and today we're going to be talking about the planet of hats. And no, I don't mean m'lady. My wife is off screen to be here for moral support.
I support you.
Thank you.
Immorally.
Thank you, random citizen, and I love you too. Okay, so the problem with the planet of the hats. Oh no, let's start with what the hell is the planet of the hats if you don't know what these are. So think about Star Wars. We have the desert planet, we have the swamp planet, we have the ice planet, we have the plains and lake planet with the weird fish people that everybody hates. And so these are the planet of the hats. Basically, it's a planet, its complexity is reduced down to just having one kind of ecological feature. I'm pretty sure I said that correctly. So now, if I happen to trip out of random, the dog is right there, and she's a puka, if you know what that is. Okay, so here's the problem that I see kind of across the board. Okay, first is it's a lack of realism. The loss of complexity and diversity because you are taking you're taking the thing, you're reducing it down and saying it's all just swamp. The next is stereotyping. From this, it's kind of weird because there is a tendency that when you reduce the complexity of the ecosystem, people reduce the complexity of the cultures and civilizations that grow out of them. I'll touch on this a little later. Okay, so the other is the missed opportunities. You're limiting the potential of what could have been a rich and varied storytelling world by not exploring the diverse possibilities of what could have otherwise been there. Yet, Star Trek and Star Wars, they did this and they succeeded. People bitch about it, but they succeeded. Now, two that didn't succeed very easily are Juniper, it's not, damn it, I keep telling myself, it's Jupiter Ascending. Oh, see? She agrees. And Battlefield Earth, both unsuccessful. Both did this. Okay. So why? Why is this happening? Well, I'll tell you why it's happening while I scroll my notes down. Okay, very good. We're back. All right. So it's a conflict of values. Hint, hint, if you've seen that video. Just saying. Okay. Why do people see this as unrealistic? And why? And to those people, I say you're wrong, but we'll get into that because I also think you're right. But you're not right for the right reasons. You're wrong for the right reasons. You're right for the... Don't worry about it. Okay. So realism versus suspension of disbelief. That's your first conflict of values. This is basically just the desire for complexity versus simplicity. Think Game of Thrones versus Star Wars. Now, before one of you nerds comes and tries to challenge me in the comment section below and tell me that Star Wars is complicated, I understand. But it is not as complicated as Game of Thrones. But go ahead and challenge me in the comment section because that appeases the algorithm gods. Go ahead, fight me. Write 15 essays. I dare you. Okay, so that aside, complexity versus simplicity in storytelling. This is kind of an aesthetic choice. So which is it going to really have more of a focus? And now this doesn't have to necessarily be a trade-off. But is the storytelling and narrative going to take front and center, or is it going to be the world? Again, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, and you can have both, but both are going to be then dependent on time and scope of your world and all that stuff that was mentioned in Worldbuilding 101. Now, the next is the exploration of diversity versus focused themes. Okay, again, diversity versus focus. Do you want to have all of the things and have a buffet? Or do you want to just have a steak dinner? The other is immersion versus archetypes. And this is why my wife is sitting here. Because we have to talk philosophy. You thought you were going to get out of it, but you will eat your philosophy and you will like it because it is good for you. Okay, good. I'm proud of you. So this has to go with radical empiricism, which is a part of pragmatism. This is what my wife is studying. So we all have different things that we're studying in the philosophical arts right now. And so she's my teacher on this. But I've got a quick story that is really kind of funny. So the guy who originally came up with the philosophy of pragmatism, which is an OG American philosophy, because go USA. USA. Although, if you're in another part of the world, please pick this up because it is a dope philosophy. It's so dope. And I'm going to do a whole video on it talking about, because it is like the best thing for like writers and world builders. Oh my God, it's so good.
This is the entirety of the world coming up with all these amazing various philosophies, and then America going, and I helped.
Yes, and we helped. Yeah. So the original guy was named Charles Peirce. But it's spelled Pierce, but he's a bitch, so we call him Peirce, but he also wanted to be named Peirce, right? Like, that was his name. Anyway.
Let's get into why Peirce equals bitch.
Yeah, so Peirce was a really kind of an asshole. And so I'm going to read you a quick quote from the book. Well, it's not quick, but this is a philosophical paper. Okay? I am 4 paragraphs in this paper, called How to Make Our Ideas Clear, which, by the way, is not very clear on how to make your ideas clear. It's a very tough reading, but I digress. Oh, no, there's some good writing philosophers. He is not one of them, but he is good for what he does, like semiotics, which we'll have a video on that soon. It's so good. Oh, it's so good. Anyways. Yeah, so here's what he says. Okay, we're 4 paragraphs in to a paper. This is philosophy. This is supposed to be scholarly. But Peirce wrote, "Here the professional logicians leave the subject, and I would not have troubled the reader with what they had to say if it were not such a striking example of how they have been slumbering through the ages of intellectual activity, listlessly disregarding the engineering of modern thoughts, and never dreaming to apply its lessons to the improvement of logic." Mic drop. Just kidding. I'm not dropping this mic. Charles Peirce has no chill. He's got no chill. And then there's like a paragraph later, he goes right back into being an asshole. It is really funny though. But anyway, so William James had to be the one to make it popular because he was not an asshole. And so Peirce got so pissed off about this because it was rightfully named pragmatism, because it's all about being pragmatic and choosing beliefs based on their value to you, right? Anyway, so again, I'll do a video on that. But whether it's good for world building or not, actually, I think it is. I think there is a way I could get in there and make it interesting. But William James called it pragmatism. Peirce got pissed off, and so he decided he was going to make his own pragmatic movement with blackjack and hookers.
Yeah.
And he said, this movement, he's going to call it a name so disgusting no one would ever take it, and he calls it pragmaticism. I love philosophy.
And all the grammar Nazis had a heart attack simultaneously.
Yes. So there's that. So immersion versus archetype. These are active versus reflective thinking. What the hell does that mean? I'm so glad you asked. So just make sure I get this right. I had to have a conversation with my wife before because I did a take before and it was really embarrassing because I was like, I forgot. And the counsel in my head could not give me the best answer. Okay. So when you are, like right now, you are experiencing this video. You are experiencing me. You're not really experiencing me because I'm just an artifact within a matrix. Okay, I lost it. Anyways, so you're experiencing this video right now. What you're doing is hopefully active thinking, meaning you are taking the information in or taking any information in that is viable to what you're trying to get out of it, right? Generally. Okay, I am almost on the mark. So think about this. If you want food, you're going to start taking in everything in your experience to figure out how to get food. That's active thinking. Now, when you're engaged with the experience, this is active. When you are engaged with watching the movie, reading the book, doing the thing, you are engaged. That's active. The moment you pull out of that external experience into yourself, you have reflective thinking. And the reflective thinking is what he would say is it's never moment to moment. You're like slightly behind. You got a slight delay. It's a slight debuff that you're dealing with. He did leave the possibility open that, yeah, maybe you could actually pull this off and do it like 1-to-1 in real time. But he says it's not how the normal person operates, okay? So active and reflective thinking. These are the two kinds of things you do. By the way, this is really the biggest difference between art and philosophers at the two extremes. Artists, like, they dive into their work and they lose themselves in the flow of making the art. Whereas the philosopher goes, nope, let's pull back and let's think about what we're doing. Let's analyze the movements. Let's analyze the emotions, the thinking, the thought process, the actions. What is the underlying meaning? Okay. All being said, good job eating your philosophy. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. For real. Okay. Very good. So the next two value problems are going to be innovation versus tradition. The conflict here is novelty versus familiarity. Now, you're going to see this going on a lot in genres. So, for instance, we had Hunger Games, and then we had a lot of novels that kind of spun off of the Hunger Games. You saw this a lot in fantasy in the 70s and 80s, where one would become pretty dominant, and then everyone was making fantasy around that, right? So it's like, oh, I want a strawberry, but now I want a strawberry with icing or cake or ice cream or whipped cream or 2 strawberries because it's ultra strawberry now. That's the familiarity aspect. People like that. Then there comes a time where people are like, ugh, I'm done. I hate strawberries. And shut the hell up. No, you don't. You love strawberries. You've always loved strawberries. This is a strawberry eating house. You will eat your strawberries like you eat your philosophy. Do not make me come over there. Okay. But there's times that we want novelty. So it's now I want an orange. I don't want to read Narnia anymore. I want to read something else. Really honestly, and this is going to probably piss some people off, Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings. I am done hearing about it. I am done seeing it. I'm like, oh my God. Because it's like everyone just keeps building off of Lord of the Rings. Like it's too familiar. I need the novelty to something else. Okay, so anyways, that aside, I know I've just pissed off like all of 2 people. Go cry on Twitter. Don't forget to take your medicine. The next thing is, next and last thing is cultural sensitivity versus simplification. This is a conflict between respect and reality versus narrative. Now, what I mean by that is that you can be respectful by simplifying. I think Mass Effect is a really good about this. What Mass Effect does is if you actually look at the lore for the species involved, that lore is very small. It's not very much. You could take it in less than 15 minutes. That is not deep.
Which sucks because we love Garrus.
Yeah, what is his species? I can't ever remember his name. Okay, well, Garrus, whose species is awesome, you know, they're militaristic and all that. What Mass Effect gets right is through their simplicity and telling good, because they're saying good narrative, not so much of having like really fleshed out, right? Like you don't see subcultures and countercultures and all this stuff really within the Mass Effect. But what you do is you see individuals who might have 1 or 2 traits of the whole, but then they have different traits, even are counter to the traits. Like the individuals kind of act as like whole subcultures unto themselves. Okay, so that's anyways. So there's my kind of thoughts on the Planet of the Hats problem. Now let's talk about the solution. So I think the biggest complaint with the Planet of the Hats trope is actually, it is the problem with the complexity that's on the planet, not the planet themselves. So I want to combat this kind of concept that it's realistic, or that it's unrealistic. And what do people use as the benchmark for what is realistic? They go, well, of course, we use Earth. And I'd say, really? You use Earth that has an axial tilt that is extremely rare in the cosmos? You use the weird planet with the angry monkeys as the benchmark? Are you serious? And you say it's not real if it doesn't have an axial tilt? Don't be superior Or I mean, be a superior being, but don't be, what's the word I'm looking for?
A dick.
Okay, don't be a dick, as my wife says. Don't do it. Now,
unless you're being funny, in which case that's fine.
Okay, be a funny dick, but don't be a Richard Nixon. Got it. Okay. So anyways, so our planet is weird. It's got the axial tilt that creates a lot of variety. We have seasons. Most planets have one season because they do not have a tilt. Though it's not wobbling, so all the light is hitting it at the same spot and it gets distributed. Versus our planet's like drunk, rolling around like the solar system and like, you know.
Our planet is the white girl wasted friend at the bachelorette party.
Yeah, there you go. So, okay.
Happy to be here, Doug.
Yeah. So we can still get complexity out of the Planet of the Hats. How can we do this? Well, ask yourself a simple question. Where is the ecosystem located? So for instance, if you have a planet that's, we'll give you plains. You have a plains planet. And there are some swamps because where the plains meet the water, there's going to typically be swamps. So ask yourself, is it landlocked? Is it landlocked, not landwalked? That's a different thing. Landlocked, near water, near the equator, near the poles, all these have an effect. Now I'm going to go into in just a little bit, meaning in a couple minutes, how that should actually work. So here's the problem as I see it. This isn't due to the planets, but to the interesting things that the planet supports. Because when we have a planet of hats, one ecosystem, people tend to take that simplification and go, well, let's simplify the ecologies, the biologies, and the cultures. You don't have to do that. You do not have to reduce the interestingness and complexity just because the planet is simple. So here's a thought experiment. Think about tribes in Africa, in the African savanna, sorry. That's a very large range, and there are multiple tribes. Now, if you're a fascist, you say all those tribes are the same, and there is no variation amongst them. This is not true.
The same people that get pissed off when people say white people don't have culture? Those
Yeah.
are the people who simplify all those tribes.
Yeah, right. So, just because you live in the same environment does not mean that you are going to have the same kind of interpretations of that environment. You're going to have different beliefs, even if you're geometrically close, but more importantly, geographically. It's literally right there on the screen, and I can't say it. That's geographically close. This is staying in. I don't care. People can just know I can't say geographically.
That's fine.
Yes.
I believe in you.
Even if we have all the same exposures to the same exterior elements, our internal interpretation of those elements ends up being different. This is why you have one tribe. And again, now I'm making shit up. I've not done the research into this. I'm just making broad statements here. Fight me in the comments if you must. Appease the algorithm gods. But this is why you have one tribe that's ancestor veneration. Another is sacred animals. Another could be have deep animism. And then, that's where you get rituals where you marry a certain land feature. And it's not like that, you sicko. It just means that you protect it. Marriage isn't all about sex.
Don't go have sex with trees or mountains, please. We are not advocating for sodomizing nature. She will get angry. We've already done this shit.
Yeah, that's basically all of Greek mythology.
Exactly.
Yeah, there you go.
And you saw what happened to Greece. Look at the state of that place today. Don't fuck nature.
So you can have people in a geographic area, right, that are close, but are still diverse. Do that with your Planet of the Hats. If you're going to reduce a planet down, that's fine. Make it at least somewhat coherent, right? Where you go, okay, we have plains and then we have some swampland or marshland or whatever. Like, I understand you want to make it not complex because you're like, bitch, I don't want to deal with this. I want to deal with the story. I understand. You can do the story. But you can still make interesting things out of it. So how can you have your cake and eat it too? Well, simplify what you don't want to focus on and complicate or make complexity out of what you do want to focus on. So again, you want to have a setting that is a Planet of the Hat type setting. That's fine. Do not, if you want to have cultures, do not make every culture the same. Do give them different beliefs. Also, recognize that those beliefs can interact. So do weird things where they start off with, here's the sacred animals, here's the cult, ancestor veneration, here's the animism, and how they borrow with each other. So like, then you have the ancestor veneration suddenly seeing their ancestors through the animals because they picked up on the idea of ancestor worship. So when you have this kind of enlightened moment, right, or this sacred moment with this animal, you're like, oh, that was my ancestor, right? Like they're giving me a message or something of that nature, right? Like you can start doing weird things and they get more complex over time because they were near each other. So how do we vary the planets? Because we can do this simply without being stupid simple. So imagine a ball's in my hand. Okay, thank you for using your imagination. I appreciate that. You have sun. The sun is going to hit, if it does not have that axial tilt, then the sunlight hits it and it's going to distribute that solar energy across that globe evenly. And not meaning, here's a ball. So it's going to hit right here and it's going to slowly spread. Evenly does not mean it's going to be as hot up here as it is in the equator. That's not how that's going to work. It's going to hit, there's a line. You probably can't see the line, but it hits the equator. So this is going to be your hot spot. This is going to be cold. This is going to be cold. Unless you start doing 2 or 3 suns or doing some weird stuff like that. Here's your ball back. Okay, so that's how you can have your cake or eat it too. So here's one last tip on how to make something complex and interesting, but do it very quickly in shorthand. So do conceptual generalities. That is to say, one of the things I realized really quick, if I want to make a planet feel alien, but I do not want to have to invest a lot of time thinking this through, I go back in time, not literally yet, but I go back in time to a geological period and I just go yank that shit. I steal it like... Insert a funny joke here, but I steal that shit.
Like the Brits stole spices and then didn't use any of them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there you go. Like the Brits stole spices and didn't use any of them. Okay, yeah, there we go. So you go back, steal that, take that general conception of that time, figure out what the kind of like, it's large plants, it's massive bugs, it's whatever, and then slap that onto the world. That will give you a really quick sense of feeling alien. It will feel weird because that is not what my backyard looks like. I'm just saying it's right there. But that aside, the other quick method I think is really good that the OG himself, the God Emperor of writing. Sarah, do you know who this is?
Brandon Sanderson.
It's Brandon the Mandan Sanderson. Yes.
All hail.
All hail. Hail to the chief.
Put your hand down. You're too white for that. People mistake it.
That's true. I am too white for that. Brandon Sanderson has a method where he says just change 1 or 2 major elements. So in his Stormlight series, he makes it to where, for whatever reason, there is a storm that hits the continent. And so the east, I think it comes from the east, goes west. And it hits the continent. So everything gets closer to the east is vastly different, and versus when you go to the west, it's more normal to what we deal with because as it goes across the continent, of course, the storm loses its power and dissipates. It literally changes. Like that one thing changes that entire world, and it gets really interesting really quick. So with that being said, there you go. There's 2 tips. There's all my rambling. My wife's funny and insightful banter. Also rambling. You're beautiful. Don't let anyone other than me tell you that. Wouldn't matter. Anyway, so there you go. Details in the description below. As always, I've been your archivist. I hope you enjoy. And if you have any questions, please hit me up. I'd love to answer them. That's free content. All right. Appease the algorithm gods.
The viewers.
Prosper. My viewers. My viewers.
Fedora.
Oh, yes.
Exist.
Oh, it shouldn't have been my lady. It should have been my viewers. I'm going to have to get a fedora for that. Okay. So anyways.
Fedora.
So I look great in a fedora.
Please get us to like 100 likes or he's going to buy a fedora. I'm blinking twice off camera. Please don't do this to me. 100 likes.
Yeah, okay, we'll see.
I'm kidding. We don't care how many likes. It's fine.
So anyways, there you go. Have fun. I hope you enjoyed. I try to not do heavy editing on this. I've done heavy editing videos before. I laugh at them. I think I'm hilarious. I try not to do heavy videos because I just want it to kind of be genuine. I want you to feel like you're sitting down having a conversation with me. So that's it. I hope you have a great time. I hope you had a great time. Have a great time. And we'll continue to have a great time. Go out, prosper. Go write something. You can do this. Have a good one. Peace.